Today is Wednesday, July 22nd at 2:45 p.m. This is the Grow Bag Grow Garden that's designed by Larry Hall. My name is Stephen Breaker. This is on my property in Backus, Minnesota. First of all, I'm going to show some flowers around the garden. Last time I showed, they were just bushes. Now they're bloomed out quite well, and I'm just going around the garden. I've got some lilies coming here that will be turning yellow. I do have some other lilies along the fence around the garden that is turning yellow. I'll show those over here. Excuse my junk. It's my construction project I got going, and I've got some nice yellow lilies over here, and you see some of my wood that I've got cut and ready for any other construction projects I'm doing. But otherwise I'm showing off my yellow lilies here. And this is my water hose that comes from my Sandpoint that is in the little green shed there, and that waters my whole garden. I'm going to show what this looks like, and this was all put in on I believe May 22nd. And if I jump here, it's going to be because of a darn garter snake. They like this kind of stuff. And this is my zucchini, and this is doing quite well. I should have a lot of zucchini coming here. And I've got, well, this bed, the last time we looked at it, there's nothing here except for two little zucchinis. So these zucchinis have really grown well. And I've got lots of carrots that have come up now. They're doing well. And I'm just showing off. And this is, my wife has some tomato plants that are all cherry tomatoes. And I transplanted some of these plants. They're doing quite well. And then in this next raised bed, I've got just beets growing, quite a few beets. And then I've got the purple, the green beans, and yellow green beans coming in. And then over in this raised bed, I've got the kohlrabies are done. So I've got those all pretty much taken out. And then I've got muskmelon growing right here, and that is just blossoming now. And then up here is my Hubbard squash, and these get just huge. Hubbard does quite well in Minnesota, but you do need to start those early, either in a little greenhouse. It seems like there are no greenhouses in Minnesota that seem to grow Hubbard squash for some odd reason, so I have to buy the seeds and grow them myself. I've got this little planter in my first little water bed here, and this white planter has flowers, and let's see, some other flowers. I can't think of the name of them right now, but they're doing quite well. And I got that up on some rocks, and there's holes in the bottom, so they're taking the water in. So I never have to water them. They're always watered. And then this plant right here I got from a nursery, and that is a chocolate mint plant. And that's doing very well. You know, growing in that little, maybe 2 inches of water in a little planter. And this is my broccoli and cauliflower. I think I let the cauliflower go too long. I'm going to try to cut that today if I can. And then I do have a spaghetti squash that you can see is growing up there, climbing my fence. I do have some extra fencing. I'm going to go around that so the deer don't eat it this fall. And then on this side over here, it's mostly weeds. I do have some wildflowers in here, but I have to finish weeding this, and that is a project still in the works. Now, I'm going to take and go over to the water beds so we can take a look at the water beds. And this is the part that I like doing. Remember, I put in all these little cucumber plants. Well, these are my cucumber plants. They are about as tall as I am right now. And you can see we're getting lots of cucumbers in here. In fact, I'm going to walk up here without stepping on them and see if I can show you some of my cucumbers coming here. Now something just jumped over here. I don't know what that was. I don't know what little critters I got in here, but anyway, you can see some of the cucumbers in between here growing. And I got to pick the cucumbers yet. I've got lots of blossoms, and these cucumbers are really doing quite well. But you can see down in the water bed here, I've got the grow bags. That's what the cucumbers are growing out of. And then I've got these grow bags down in the water. The soil mixture is peat moss and common manure mixed together, and I've got 10-10-10 fertilizer in there, which is a regular garden fertilizer, and it's also got Epsom salts and long-lasting lime in there. So I did have some perlite in there too, just to kind of fluff it up a little bit. My pumpkin plant may produce, it may not. We had a real bad hailstorm, so you can see this plant was really shredded bad by the hail. So this may not make it. Not really sure about that. And you can see that there are quite a few. I'm going to walk over here and try to step on a darn snake. I got a phobia on these darn things. Anyway, they're harmless. They don't hurt you. But there's a lot of cucumbers that I do have to pick up. I'm just going to walk along here. I do have one big pumpkin, one that's spreading out this way, that may produce some pumpkins. And you can see some of the big cucumbers coming on. The hail did do a lot of damage to everything, but it seems to be pulling through. And so I'm just showing down in the bed here how this works. And you can see the water that these all are in. And of course we have lots of frogs in there, so that's probably why there's so many garter snakes around. They like to eat frogs. And then here is one of the floats that I've got a rock on it, and that keeps the water level right up to, I have to adjust it, but it keeps it right up to about 2.5 inches. And then I got this 1/4 inch tubing you can see on the ground here. You have to be careful not to trip on this. And then the tomato plants, you can see I got lots of tomatoes. These are my yellow tomato plants, and the little holes that you see on these tomatoes are from that big hail we had. We had a horrible hailstorm that just kept on coming for like, oh gosh, it must have been a good 10 minutes of hail. And it just shredded the cucumber plants, but they seem to pull through pretty good. I got lots of blossoms on them yet. So I got lots of cucumbers coming yet. And then I've got lots and lots of tomatoes. So I think I'll be canning a lot of tomatoes. Now this year what I did different compared to last year, each year you learn something new, is let me show you the water here, is I have a helper that helped me build these, it's a coated fence. It's a 2-inch by, 3-inch by 2-inch. And so these fences hold the tomatoes up and keeps them from falling over. I do have tomato cages, but if you don't have these supports up, the wind will knock them over and kill your tomato plants. And that's what happened last year. So this year I've got a couple of tomato plants here from the wife that are more of these little tomatoes that come on. And then here is some more red tomatoes. These look pretty good. And then you can see these look pretty good too. So what I do with these tomato plants, you can see I've topped them off so that if you don't top off these tomato plants, they just keep on growing forever and get so tall that you won't be able to reach your tomato plants. So I top them off so they bush out more. And of course I'm just loaded with tomatoes. And so this year what I did different compared to last year, I put in only 8, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put in 12 tomato plants and put this fencing up to hold the tomato plants so they don't bend over and fall over. And when you get a high wind, they'll knock them over too. So we did have a really bad wind, a couple of really bad winds here, and that didn't even phase the tomato plants. So this fencing does work very well. And all I did was just take treated 2x4s, cut them 2x4 by 8, cut it in half, and then cut it in half again. And then I took screws and screwed them into the wood. They're very sturdy, very sturdy. And all I got to do in the fall is just screw them out and just back out the screws, and I can use them next year. So usually your first year is when you put all the time and effort and money into this thing, and each year thereafter there's no cost at all, except for maybe a little more lime and Epsom salts. And again, here's the float. And what happens here is when we had those heavy rains, sometimes 2-3 inches of rain, this is where it will overflow. All the water will come out, so these never overflow. Because they will actually kill the tomato plants if you get too much water in there. So we never have that problem because we have an overflow on each bed. And as you can see, we had just little tiny tomato plants in here before on the previous video, and now I'm going to do a kind of a look so you can see the whole view of this whole bed here. These are all my tomato plants. They've got staked up, and I'm going to take a kind of a side view here. And then I've got my cucumber plants down here. And I'm just going to go over on this other bed here on the side and get a better view here. Let me get a better view of these are the tomato plants. And when the wood stops, I've got cages that the cucumbers can run up on. These are all cucumbers. There's probably, I'm guessing, maybe 12 cucumber plants. There's one big pumpkin plant that the hail shredded pretty bad. Then I had one let's see, spaghetti squash, and again that's right here. And I'll probably get about 3 or 4 spaghetti squash off this, maybe more. And then In this bed I've got just strictly my one spaghetti squash and then just broccoli and cauliflower, which a lot of this is getting too far gone. I've taken a lot out of here, but I need to cut some more out of here. So anyway, that's the garden, what it looks like on July 22nd. And I just want you to see what this garden looks like and all the flowers. And so that is it for July 22nd at 2:45 on a Wednesday.